We appreciate your presence. And so for tonight's presentation, we will talk about 20 minutes first, 20-30 minutes, and it'll be followed by a discussion with Mark Rappolt, and there'll be another about 10 minutes Q&A session. So as a curator and artist, we've known each other for quite a few years. And as a way to introduce Joy's work, we thought it might be great to just briefly introduce his background, and also go through 3 key sort of representative exhibitions that he has done in the past, as a way to see what his journey has been like, so how his approach to artwork making might have changed and what might not have changed and what's still pertinent. Joy, he was originally born in Toledo in Spain, and then you moved to Tokyo when you were 18 wasn't it?
18.
And studied psychology for a bachelor's degree. And then afterwards he had an interesting turn, ended up working as a hedge fund trader for, what was it, a year or so?
No, it was like 2.5.
2.5 years?
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite a commitment.
Yeah.
So he was a serious financial trader for 2.5 years. And then afterwards ended up taking the working for a photographer, is that right?
Yeah.
And so began to be interested in the medium of what makes art. And so very unconventional background. He doesn't have a formal art education, and but I think you will be able to see how that might have affected his practice throughout the presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Maybe so. Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah, that's the brief biography. So he has primarily been based in Tokyo, and you have exhibited across Japan, and he has been a finalist in many art awards in, for example, the Taro Art Prize and O'Hara Museum Art Prize and so on.
So maybe I just start with the one in 2012.
So there's 3 exhibitions we're going to talk about. So 3 exhibitions, all of them, I think it was exhibited at the Tokyo Wonder site, which is a charitable organisation, or run by Tokyo government, that's right. And it regularly hosts national and international artists to have residency to develop their work. And the first one he had was entitled The Unspeakable in 2012, and the second one was in 2014. The title was The Children of the Sun Dreaming of a Hidden Place. And the third one was on 2015, last year, 2 Million Years of Solitude. So talk about that.
So the first one, this Speak and the Unspeakable, is for me it's like the first show as an artist. Kind of before I was more focused on photography, but at that time it was the first time I did like a show with a kind of art center. Before it was more with commercial galleries. So in the discussion of preparing the show, I remember that the curator, we had previous meetings, and for the first 3 proposals or 2 proposals, he was like, yeah, that's fine, very beautiful, and maybe there's someone that wants to buy it, but what do you want to do? Or like, we don't sell works because it's an art center, so think something more like interesting. Or so it was very shocking at the beginning, but it for me it's in a way like the starting of thinking of art not as a way of living, but as a objective or a goal by itself. So So yeah, it's always, and then I started to think of what had been like in my mind for a long time, and I went back to the university years and since then I was very interested in the kind of self-referential loops, because I studied like philosophy of language, and so I tried to mix this thing of the logic and the loop, self-referential loop, with photography. That is what I was doing before, and then it came in the shape of an installation, because I thought to talk about photography through photography is difficult, and to take Wittgenstein's work, it would be like you can never see your own eye or something like that. So or to speak about language, you have to have like an exterior or third-party structure to talk about that. So I just made an installation which was like basically like a camera obscura and a room where the people would come inside. So in the first room I used to have like paper which I burned with so yeah, that's like sunburned paper which I used with magnifying lenses, and I used to write texts like very short in a very kind of kosu style that I liked at the time. And then people went to the dark room, and when people look through the room is like 5 meters by 4 meters, and when people look through a pinhole, they see the next room, in which people then later go through. And it's like 4 instant cameras that people can use freely, and the strobo lights are synchronized with the strobo set here. So when people shoot a photograph, they are synchronizing with these lights that flashes, and then through the pinhole that is in the wall here, around here, their own shape or figure is like focused or burned into the other room, where there is an array of 4 by 2 meters of photographic film, which during the period of the exhibition people would come, and so all the images of the people that would have been shooting would be in that film. So that was the first one that I did in 2012, and I did a short, like a 1-year residency in Tokyo on the side, and it changed me a lot, because I met a lot of artists and kind of opened me a lot of ways of thinking about the world. And then as a final exhibition after the residency, we had all the residents had a solo show, and this is part of this. This is a work that is comprised by 5 mirrors facing inside. There is a light bulb in the middle, and the one in the top is hanging from the ceiling, and it moves when people come with the wind. So in that way, that all the reflection that is in the floor, in the lower part, moves together with the top mirror, and feels like gives you the impression that like an earthquake is happening. And yeah, and then in the next room I did one work which is called The Mountains of Prometheus, which is the base of the work that is downstairs, which I just asked some, at that time it was 3 hedge fund traders, and I asked them to make me a forecast of the next 20 years for the spot price of the uranium. And at that time it was, each of the wall had a different forecast, so each of the forecasts were completely different, and one of them gave me like a very bull scenario that is like the crude oil would dry in 5 or 10 years, and then every country would go for nuclear power, and that was like very high graph. And so I just polished the walls. We just polished the walls, like sanding the walls, like in downstairs. And then this is the work that is also downstairs, the first of the series, which is a film that I just brought to a place where the radiation is really high. It's 34 microsieverts per hour, which is 4 to 5,000 times the one in Tokyo. So the place is Fukushima. And I just brought it back, and I just enlarged it without using any camera. And then, well, another work that was related also with light, I just brought a system that searches for the sun and moves with the sun. So after that, it reflects the mirror into a series of mirrors in the gallery, so that at the end it ends focusing, giving sun to a plant that is there all the day while the sun is on. And some of the works were more focused on the medium. This is a photograph that I took of the wall and printed it in real size and just put a frame there. So most of the people didn't realize that it's a wall. So all there is a work there, yeah. And then that's a text that is also a first of a series, like kind of a prototype of the work that is downstairs, based on Borges, Jorge Luis Borges, the Latin American Argentinian writer. So it's based on a fictitious work that appears in his novel An Examination of the Work of Herbert Twain. So I just wrote a story that was a fictitious novel appearing in his work. So it's like finishing his work kind of thing. But it's all based on some dreams that I had like a few months, a few years before. So that are the sketches that I had there, I did at that time, and that kind of went into this show afterwards. Yeah, and finally, that's the most recent, maybe. The third one is 2 Million Years of Solitude, and obviously it's based. The title is like based on Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 1,000 years, 100 years of solitude. And I just mixed paintings from my grandfather, who wasn't a painter. He had a training and worked as a spy for the Japanese army in Second World War. But after, when the Second World War finished, he just regretted a lot, and he didn't ever talk about war. And he just had a small factory in the countryside, and after retiring he started painting, but he's now like 93 or 4, and he started talking a lot about suddenly. So I just thought I have to listen to him, and I conducted a series of interviews with him, which can be listened here, and he talks about his memories. They're very mixed memories of sometimes of the war, sometimes before that. And I just wrote some images that link to the sound and presented it here. And then there is also another painting that my father, that lives in Spain, did before I was born, because he went to Spain to study El Greco, and so this is a copy of El Greco's painting, and these are the details of my grandfather's. This is a photograph of him when he was a soldier, a lieutenant or something, I don't know. And this is a painting of El Greco. that I brought together with some interviews also from my father about my other grandfather that I had never met. And then this is a photograph that I took in a house near my house in Spain where I was born, which is a house that was used by a German diplomat, but was kidnapped in 1936, and was sent to some concentration camps. And well, he came back, but after he died, the house is left like it's now. And I don't know why my father had the keys, and he was taking care of the garden. He loves gardening also, so he told me that he had the keys, and I said, oh, of that house. So it's like a huge house with a garden. So when I was a child, we used to pass in front of that all the time, but didn't know what was that. I thought it was like a small church, a monastery or something. But so it has a lot of very old things that were going to be thrown. So I just took some magazines from 1928 or something, and it was really interesting. There was an article about how Hitler lost the general elections, and the title of the article was Hitler's Dream of Dictatorship Shattered. It was in 1932, about 2 years after that. Yeah, he took over as a chancellor, or well, the Third Reich started. And then some more photographs of the house. And then this is like a plinth with some found objects that my older son, collected during some residencies in the UK and also in France. So it's arranged in a certain way, but people are it's open for people to play with them if they can. And then in the last room there is another room that is tilted 3 degrees, and so all the horizontal lines and everything is 3 degrees. But sometimes people don't realize that. Yeah, it's neon and some sound playing there. Yeah, and that's the end of the 3 exhibitions. Maybe I just go too long, but
No,
yeah. Yeah, maybe we should have some
should we go back
lights.
to some of the
Oh, yeah.
Can we go back to the
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the presentation.
No, that's all.
It's very lovely to reflect on your work again and again. So in terms of, so we were discussing before the talk what might be still fundamental pertinent in his practice, in your practice, and I thought about it, and I think there are 2 clear elements.
Yeah.
It's not very clear cut what's changed, what's still fundamental. But so one is the place of physicality of the audience and the importance that it plays in the actual experience of the artwork. So it sounds very basics, because art exhibitions need to be experienced and visited, but in our current context, imagery doesn't necessarily require physicality nowadays. There's the increase of online gallery and so on. Mark also kindly raised this issue of the balance between the concept, your conceptual side of the art practice, and the materiality of the work. And so where does the artwork reside? And I was personally thinking that almost your concept itself can complete itself or establish itself as an artwork only through participation of the audience in the actual space. So, for example, in the second exhibition, it can only be become the felt experience and become the artwork that the audience would be in the place, feeling the changes of the shadows, and also with this piece as well, that it only completes itself as a logic when the audience actually hear the sound of the shutter, the trigger, and but also the second point, what might be important, I think, is this question of unattainable time and space. So you were referencing Wittgenstein, for example, and how he said you can never see your own eyes. So you try to look, but you cannot attain it. Or so whether if it's through the logic of philosophy or through mythologies or ideas and narratives, there's this move towards or intention to try capture something that's not attainable through language, or through materiality, or through one singular time and space. So which moves on to the second point of how you were telling me the definite change or the transition that happened since your first exhibition at Tokyo Wondersite, is that your interest shifted from the logic to the place of narrative. So you're consciously more employing mythologies and written novels and stories. The search for this unattainable space was initially done through by employing the logic of philosophy, I suppose. But in a sense, I think you're still working with logic, but I think you're making your logic by creating this experiential reality by so through let's say different time frame. So there's different elements of time frame that exist in your work. One is time space of mythology, and time and space of dreams, this idea, and personal lifetime of your family, and also the idea of deep time, the geologic deep time, and how you try to capture the deep time of the radiation that's still in the soil. And by bringing these together and colliding them, you're trying to sort of create a logic where the audience can place themselves in this unattainable space.
I think it's like first about the experience or the physicality of the work. I think that it's like that question that everyone had when they were 10 years old or something, that is the sunset beautiful even if there is no human ray? So I think it's like, well, maybe phenomenology. So it's a phenomenon or it needs a subject to be. So in terms of art, I think it's an act of communication. In terms of that, there is a viewer that is needed, I think, to feel and experience some work. So I think in terms of that, the very last form of art in which comes from being made and being shown and being experienced is the experience that each viewer has. So in that sense, I think it's like focusing more on the final end rather than in the medium or in the historical or whatever.
Is that one of the reasons why you said you told me that you thought you made an artwork for the first time when you created the first exhibition?
Maybe that's a reason for. And another thing is about the deep time and thing, that 2 million years is, I forgot to explain about that, but it's the half-life of some particles of sometimes plutonium, or some of the very heavy radioactive particles that have a lifetime, very long lifetime. But yeah, thinking about that, I just thought of that very long period of time. But at the same time, 1 million years of solitude, it's well, it's based on the 100 years of solitude of Garcia Marquez, in which 7 generations of the Buendia family just go to Colombia, to a very remote village in Colombia, and start making a village. And it's a history of 100 years of this family, how they have like 7 generations having sometimes the same name. It's very confusing, but they are at the end repeating the same, like doing war, doing like the same mistakes are happening over the time. So I just was thinking of how many times we can, or we have been doing this repetition of sometimes mistakes, sometimes beautiful things. But so I just thinking of that, I just thought I may just start with my own family. So it's the work, yeah, it splits between the very personal and close part to the very
You shift this time frame.
Yeah. So in terms of that, maybe this logic, or like kind of the attainable point, is the point between these two very extreme poles, which is like a pendulum looking for the balance point, but it's like in a way unattainable, because the relationship between everything is changing all the time. So it's like trying to stop a pendulum in the bus going from Baker Street to Oxford Circus.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also being a person that you might be in one place but might be thinking about completely different time and space that you might be recalling, and does that mean that are you inhabiting totally different time and space at the same time, and this sort of almost flashback like temporality, multiple temporalities.
Yeah, I think.
Which relate to your current show. We were wondering maybe you could go through your work that's in the current show.
Yeah. But also, I will briefly show some of the images of the show that maybe some people have already shown. Yeah, I think with the light is fine. People have eyes and can see. So
Although you can't see your own eyes.
Yeah, and maybe, so maybe I just let Mark. Do you want to sit here, or shall I sit here?
Great.
So yeah, you can see.
That's right.
Yeah. And we can also start showing some of the images of the show that.
I guess while you're doing that, sitting in the front, couldn't help noticing how you chose to set, leaving the empty space in the middle.
Maybe like if you want, I can change.
It's a psychiatrist's wet dream. But it made me think that maybe one place we could start is the number of absences within the show downstairs.
Okay.
Since there's this absent body of a grandfather, absent bits of walls, absent tango dancers, absent text from Borges, and a cocktail that once you drink it is absent. So is this part of your work, sort of chasing these absences?
Maybe that's true. Because I was talking yesterday with someone about the weight of the smoke, and we were commenting about the film Smoke. That I think it was Paul Auster who wrote the script. So there is the very famous story of the how would you weight the smoke of your cigarette, and there is this guy that says just weight it before you smoke it, and then you collect all the ashes after you smoke it, and the difference is the weight of the smoke that you have smoked. So like that, probably the exhibition, I have brought today some like 30 lemons and 20 limes to make the cactus. So it weighs like probably 3.2 kilograms or something. But when they go to the garbage, probably they will weigh less than half. So that will be the weight of the work that has been like drunk by the people that drink it. Yeah. So yeah, in that sense, I think the negatives as a positive image and negative image, like when you do a mold. Yeah, I think it's something that is very present in my work.
Yeah. I guess to dig a hole, the video piece downstairs, you're creating the hole.
Yeah.
And then filling it in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
so which is it that you're trying to do with the work, or both?
Yeah.
Fill in the emptiness.
Yeah, yeah. I think creating emptiness and then filling it up, and yeah, and maybe there is a slight difference in the way that I put it, because it gets into my arms or whatever, and maybe that's also part of the work that I bring. But yeah, basically, I think it's one of the best ways of showing something is like not showing it. So yeah. So I think the emptiness is also like very kind of powerful present for something or someone. So in that terms, I think I'm now that you say it's a lot about emptiness or the lack of the presence. Yeah.
I wonder if everybody had a chance to see the show.
As
Anyone haven't had a chance? Okay, they're quite to be familiar with the work.
Yeah. So and also it relates also with the sound piece.
Yeah.
That is like sound piece and the tango dancers are absent, but their presence is there. And yes, this series evolved. I don't know if I commented to you, but it started as a photography without photography. So so it's like I was recording the act of me going to take a picture with a large format camera, and then I just shoot it and then show only the recording. So the people start to trying to like develop their own image of the landscape in their own mind through the sound piece. So in a way, I think it's also that because I thought that when ZK means the absolute or ultimate landscape. So when you try to give like this image of an ultimate landscape, a very what's the opposite of abstract?
Figurative.
Figurative, yeah, a very figurative image will just distract or will be the biggest constraint, towards it.
And when you describe that work, you describe it as in a very generous way, that you're allowing people to make their own landscape. But is there a part of you, for instance, when I was sitting in this chair, staring out the window, sometimes looking behind me to see if anyone was there making a noise, does part of you like observing people in a slightly confusing situation?
Yeah, maybe that's true. It's always interesting. Watching the people. I mean, I guess that everybody, well, not everybody, but but it's and maybe it's like an interest in
voyeuristic.
Yeah.
Voyeuristic.
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 Maybe. Yeah.
I guess you can't. It's interesting to observe people participating in your work, but you can't see what they are imagining in their mind.
Yeah, that's theirs.
That's theirs.
And in that way, there's always a point where you cannot just go into another person's mind, which I think is also interesting. Yeah.
And it's really notable in the show how many different media you're using.
Yeah.
So painting, video, sculpture in some ways. How it adds to this feeling that you're searching for something, I think.
Yeah.
And how do you decide which medium a work's going to work in?
I think
is it
it's
an idea that you then find a medium for, or do you think of the medium and then the idea comes?
I think it's both. So there is some ideas that are somewhere like from before, and some kind of like acts or actions that will lead into a physical thing, and then sometimes they just kind of meet and make work, and sometimes I just have the idea still somewhere sleeping or playing. But so in that sense, I think it's just like when the meeting of two people. So when they just meet, they just make something that separately would be like just a physical. But yeah, sculpture or just an idea that is only letters, so or words. But I think also that's it's like when trying to go out of the frame, always I try to pull back and back and back until I just face a wall. But in this process, I always find like, maybe this is better, or maybe that way is better. So I try to kind of go back into the point where you may find a better vision of the whole idea. So I think it's maybe also like an act for myself to trying to clarify what I'm trying to grasp or show. It's like, and it's usually like very sporadic thoughts or ideas that I try to put in some ways, but they are sometimes like here and here, so I need like a very wide lens and going back and back, and at the end I end like using cactus or asking help for something. Or, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting you brought it back to yourself, because I think during the talk you very casually mentioned the role of dreams in your work, and it's also embedded in the texts you have to accompany the exhibition.
Yeah.
So what role do dreams play, your own dreams, and trying to understand them?
Yeah, I think it started like in 2011-12. There was a period that I dreamed a lot, and I don't know why, but and it also marked kind of like a shift between the very logical way of thinking into the more narrative, as Eiko pointed before, because I was kind of struggling to try to make a new work after the Wittgenstein installation. I was trying to make more, but it's like it was like one way, like you just can go narrower and narrower into the deeps of logic. So like Wittgenstein did, and at the end he says, no, you can't speak about these people, and then he just throws it to the reader. But I just thought I needed kind of to break through that, and I wanted to break through inside, not going outside. So I just thought, instead of using logic, I shall go back to the both how do you say?
Embodiment
of language, physicality of language. So I just thought I should go to my more instinctive or mother tongue, which is Spanish. So then that's when I started to read lots of Latin American and Spanish written literature, and I started reading Borges and all about dreams and universes that he constructs. And yeah, and then my brother, he went to do some training on shamanism in Mexico, and so he has some. He's now like a shiatsu massagist, but he always, like, when he does massage, he touches the person and starts talking about it. So he just like, in a way, introduced me in a state where I thought it's rather than logic, kind of the more instinctive responses to certain parts of the world are important. So I think that's when I started to be interested in dreams, because it's like the indivisible number. Like when you arrive to that, it's like I can split that into different more elements. So then, yeah.
So do you think the work's a kind of therapy?
In a way, it could be, yeah.
Is it working?
Well, I don't recommend it to. It gives you more headaches than other things, but yeah.
I mean, it's also interesting the discussion about logic and switching from logic to dreams, because certain kinds of logics are very visible in the show.
Yeah.
In terms of future predictions, this incredibly masochistic experiment with the other artist to make this painting.
Yeah.
You know, this it seems like you want rules and you also want to screw around with them.
Yeah.
At the same time, but in a kind of ambiguous way.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I was thinking about when after starting the painting, and while I was talking with the painter through Skype, because it was hours and hours, so sometimes we just start talking. And I remembered Koki Tanaka's work that he just asked some like 5 pianists to make a composer work, or 10 hairdressers to make a single haircut styling, and they of course struggle. But he is a viewer. He never gets into. Yeah, so, and he films that, so he's like a voyeur person.
And there's a certain pleasure in that face.
Yeah. So, but I thought it may be like more
ability to convince.
Yeah, like convincability,
Convincibility.
Yeah.
Sure.
If I'm doing that, so I thought, yeah, first I should try, because in the end I think that this Stella Maris is a name I found in a dream. That actually I found in a dream. But Stella Maris is the North Pole, so it has guided a lot of people through the sea trips all over. So I just thought to think more on the future as a something with hope. So I just thought, yeah, I should try it. And so doing these collaborative works with the tango dancers, with the artists in Brazil to make a cocktail work, with sound artists to make a narration for a video, with the painter, with the economist. So everything is something that I'm relying on other people. But I think that relying in other people is something that it's something you feel bad, or you feel like weak or vulnerable. But I think it's the starting for a relationship, because if you don't show your vulnerability, the only way to meet people is oppositing each other. So I thought like just like putting some weight on other people, and vice versa is one good way to think of a future.
Is it also a way to break away from your own logic?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
By including somebody else, that you can only break away from your paradigm.
Definitely. Yeah, because I think the contact with people is so enriching always. Yeah. So I think it's I don't think it's like a solo show. I think it's like a collaboration with everyone. So it's like an orchestration. So the violinist would never think that it's his own piece. Yeah.
And do you think, I mean, seeing as we're in this particular context, that this is a kind of theme that's present in your generation of Japanese artists? Seeing as you mentioned Koki and maybe Chimpon as well to some degree, about using art to establish different types of community and different relationships with other people.
Yeah,
that may be less hierarchical.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and the last thing that you say, the less hierarchical, I think it's a good kind of keyword, because this kind of like nodes, like sporadic nodes that maybe sometimes join each other and make something that can disappear, but it's not like a physical, very modernist kind of structural, hierarchical structure, but rather it's more like a moving and kind of lightweight, not structure, but combination or archipelago of thoughts that sometimes come together with someone that you could make sparks and think of a work together. So I think it maybe is something generational, something local. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well. in the text piece, how many different languages are deployed that are particular to you, so Spanish, English, Japanese. Do you think that relates to the idea of constructing a different kind of community as well? In a kind of global world that maybe you're part of many different cultures?
Definitely. So, because, it's like, in a way now probably it's a period when these kind of like very cosmopolitan things can be seen in some local spots in the world, but probably I think that in 500 years or in 1,000 years, probably that would, if at the speed that we can move to other countries or we have internet, probably the mix of cultures and languages may hopefully be like spreading. So then the concept of nationality or identity would definitely change, and I think that it's something that brings a new richness to the world.
I wonder if you could both mention a little bit about what you think as how this exhibition is distinctively different from the past work, because it's a first exhibition that you had in London, and you have spent some time on how many works? I think you made about 7 new works.
This time, like or 6 maybe. So 6. I'm not sure. I'm not good at numbers.
I mean, any reflection or anything?
I mean, does being in London change the nature of your work?
Yes, definitely. I think so. This kind of sense of interest for the history and the ambivalence or the like double-sided or a relative sense of history. It was born here when I just arrived, and maybe I just told you, but I just arrived to Trafalgar Square and saw Nelson like standing there, and for Spanish-born people, he say, "Oh yeah, the fucking guy that destroyed it." But well, I don't feel that, because of course I know that Spain did the same. If people from South America would see, all these guys that went there with swords and killed a lot of people, would think the same. So I just, but rather than think, and I just thought of how interesting to see my own history, like from both sides, and started trying to deal with that, but not in a very critical or like bashing of the past, but rather in how this could have a very productive or positive way. So I just always prefer to see the glass half full rather than half empty. So I just thought, what could be the things that that are coming in the next few centuries or thousands of years that could be said that was good, that people just sometimes colonized, invaded, but of course there were a lot of bad things, but not everything is bad. So I just thought, of course, if history wasn't like that, probably I wouldn't be here, or you. So we cannot deny the past that is there. It's, of course, past can be changed now, as history can be changed, but I think it's very more productive to kind of think of a future. And
is that because you worry about the future? Because when you see the sort of chart on the wall, it's sort of vaguely apocalyptic.
Very, very like pessimistic. Basically, I'm really optimistic always. So sometimes I need these reminders. But so because
despite having been in London during these strange times.
But still I arrive late to every place because I think, it's fine, I will arrive there. It says 50 minutes, okay, it's fine. But so I'm always basically optimistic about the future. But I think this thought about the future is something that relates with my kind of motivation to relativize everything, like the very far past, very far future. Where am I? So it's all like so in a way the series of exhibitions is like my ruminations or like thoughts about where on the pendulum am I? Like yeah, because yeah, I guess that people in the 7th century thought that they were in the forefront of science or well, not science, maybe religion, but yeah, they were in the future almost. Now we think that the 21st century is the future, but yeah, in the 52nd century probably they would think of us like, oh yeah, like the dinosaurs. Yeah,